The versions of the accused just keep coming together. Whoever had Ndanzi's cell phone was doing their level best to make it seem like Ndanzi was in contact with their lawyer. Two lawyers for the longest time can use the same FFC and nobody picks it up.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Pink felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull a next 10. Like Jazzy, Stacy, Pinky. All of the Barbies is pretty. Damn, all of the Barbies is bad.
Hello and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Nogwazi Ntombela, also known as Gwazi Bear on all social media platforms. Do subscribe, be a part of this family, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back, darling. As you know, every week I bring you updates in the Senzo Meyiwa Trial, so I'm here to do exactly that. So before I get into this video, please don't forget to like this video, comment with your thoughts down below, and also subscribe if you're not already subscribed to my channel. So without wasting too much of your time, let us get into the proceedings of the week. On Monday, the 26th of May, we were back in court, and as indicated by Baloyi, they are going to be opposing Mnisi's request to basically recall some of the witnesses that have been cross-examined, namely Constable Zungu as well as Buthelezi from the EMPD. However, the state and the defense have decided that they will put the arguments on hold for now, because they are trying to get the AVLs for all the vehicles that have been requested, and only then, if any questions do arise, then Mnisi can then submit his application to recall the witnesses, and that's when they will basically do their arguments. So as indicated by Advocate Baloyi on Friday, we were going to have a new witness on the stand, and this witness was going to testify on the Mjiako issue and basically the issue with the LPS and the FFC number in relation to Mjiako. The witness that was called to the stand is Kulani Stanley Sambu, who is from the LPC, and he basically came with new exhibits being his statement as well as the information from Mjiako. In his testimony, they do basically take him through his statement, and he does confirm that the statement is his own, and he basically gives us a bit of his career history and how long he has been working for the LPC. Now, when it comes to the issue of Mjiako, he does say that Mjiako wrote to the LPC and said that he had received a complaint from Lizanne Skoltz saying that they are using the same FFC number, and this gentleman then does tell the court that the FFC number was allegedly or apparently duplicated, which means that both Lizanne Skoltz and Mjiako were both using the same FFC. Now, my question to this is, how is it possible that two lawyers for the longest time can use the same FFC and nobody picks it up until the number is said in court, and there's a lot of questions about it when the defense actually raised eyebrows and raised some questions and concerns with regards to this FFC number. So Mjiako and Lizelle Skoltz were using the same number all along with no one picking it up for years and years. Nobody picked it up until last year when Magistrate Cronier mentioned that number in court. There is no way. One of the interesting things that he does mention is that Mjiako was admitted as an attorney on the 26th of March, and I heard 2012. I don't know whether this was a mistake. I don't know whether it was an error on his side, but I definitely heard 2012. And he then also goes on to say that the letter basically shows that Mjiako was registered Mjiako was a registered attorney on the 5th of May in 2020. So I don't know whether Mr. Sambo made a mistake when saying 2012 or what the case is, but I'm thinking that he actually meant 2020. Some of the questions that Baloyi took him through is basically the FFC and why it is required, and he basically does respond and say that it is used as verification so that an attorney can present it when he's going to represent a person, and so on and so forth. And another thing he does mention is that the FFC number does not appear on the the practicing cards that attorneys usually have. It's a separate document altogether. Mr. Sambo does put on some of Mjiako's information onto the record with regards to like the firm name, the firm number, etc., etc. He does say that the firm name that Mjiako was registered under is Mjiako Attorneys. The firm number is 18209, and the firm is based in Johannesburg, and he is an advocate, and he did later on convert to being an attorney or an advocate that has no trust, and that was as far back as July in 2021. Now he does mention that a certificate number or an FFC number was given to Mjiako by the with the number 4415/2020, but however his FFC number actually should have been 13911/2020. But now the confusing thing about this is that they only picked up on the error last year. So why is it that Mjiako still has an FFC number with a 2020 date, which will come in handy when it comes to the cross-examination of Umnis? He does mention that the letter from Mjiako does mention that he received a letter from or communication from Lizanne Scholes stating that he was fraudulently using her number or FFC number and so on and so forth. And then Mr. Sambo says that he then received an email from Mjiako stating all this information, and then he went to a system developer who then said the FFC was duplicated. Now, once that was done, he says that they then corrected that and the correct FFC number was allocated to Mjiako. Another interesting thing about how the state led this evidence is with regards to the contact number of Mjiako, where they say, you know, accused number 2 was in communication with a certain number. They called out the number and made Mr. Sambo confirm that the number that Mjiako Attorneys was registered under, the cell phone number, was indeed the cell phone number that Ndanzi's cell phone was communicating with. But I still say Ndanzi's phone was all over the place. We remember it being in Fosterus at some point when he was at the police station in Pretoria. So I still don't believe that he was the one that was in contact with Mjiako. However, whoever had Ndanzi's cell phone was doing their level best to make it seem like Ndanzi was in contact with their lawyer. The state finished leading the witness, and it was time for the defense to cross-examine. And as per procedure, you're supposed to cross-examine for accused number 1, then 2, 3, 4, and so forth. However, Mnesi requested that the court allow Ramusipili to cross-examine first, and then he will cross-examine after, because the information relating to Mjiako is with regards to accused number 2. So he didn't want to cross-examine on behalf of accused number 1 first and basically take some of the questions that Ramusipili would ask. So the judge did allow that, and Ramusipili commenced his cross-examination. When Ramusipili commenced his cross-examination, he basically lays the foundation and the background to the witness, telling him the reason why he's basically here. He says that the defense never disputed that Mjiako was an attorney, of which is true. They never disputed that Mjiako was an attorney. They never disputed that Mjiako was an actual person. What they did dispute is that Mjiako was representing accused number 2. Number 2 was not represented during the time. He was not given an appointment letter by accused number 2. There was no contract or agreement between the two parties as to the representation of accused number 2. A very important question which made it clear that this witness was not the right person to bring to explain this information. Ramusipili asked, you say that the issue with the duplication of the numbers was on the side of the FFC, and he says yes, and he says, but you don't work for the FFC. And Mr. Sambo agrees, no, he doesn't work for the FFC, he works for the LPC. So basically he isn't the right person to come and testify about the issues that the FFC had on their systems. And he says basically that is the job of a system developer. They should be the ones that could be able to explain how the issue took place, how it was resolved, and why did it take place. So he's not the right person, so he couldn't answer any of the questions that Ramusipili posed to him with regards to the error in the duplication of the FFC numbers. Ramusipili also points out the fact that the complaint came through was a result of the FFC number being questioned in court, and that's the only reason why they were able to pick up that there was a duplication. Before that, no one picked up that there was an issue with the FFC number. Up until now, from 2020 up until now, no one had picked up an issue. He also confirms with Mr. Sambo that, okay, when you realized that there was an error, you gave Mjiako a new FFC number. And then what happened with the old FFC number, the duplicate one that you had? And he says that Lizanne Scholes kept the same FFC number, which is crazy business if you ask me. Now, because Mr. Sambo had mentioned a system developer that he contacted to fix this error, Ramasipili then requested the name and surname of that system developer and actually requires that person to come to court to be able to testify with regards to this information. Ramasipili then completed his cross-examination and Advocate Mnisi took over. One of the first questions that he asked was with regards to the FFC number having the 2020 at the end, which means that it was formulated or created in 2020. And he then asked the witness, why is it that this still has a 2020 number when the mistake was found last year and he should have been given a new FFC number? The witness was unable to answer this question, and he says that is an issue for the FFC to be able to answer. Then Mnisi mentions a case about Umadonsela, who took the LPC to court, and 6 or 7 others, and they basically were investigating some fraud that was happening within the LPC, and that case was apparently finalized, and the judge had a lot of questions to ask with regards to that case. And because Mnisi was well prepared and he was well versed when it comes to this particular case, he was able to answer the judge's questions in relation to that case. Now, one of the questions that Mnisi asked is with relation to this particular case, where he says, was the LPC in a position to tell who were the beneficiaries of the fraudulent documentations that were issued by the LPC with regards to the FFC numbers, etc., etc.? And the witness was unable to answer this. It will be very interesting who those beneficiaries are, because Njiako might be in the numbers of people that benefited from the fraud that was happening at the LPC. Nisi basically then says, okay, so Mr. Sambo, you are basically just the messenger and we cannot shoot the messenger. We need to go back now to the FFC because clearly you're unable to help us with any of the questions we are asking with regards to why you're here. You're brought here to explain the issue of Mjiako, but you are not the relevant person to actually give us this information because you cannot answer the questions as to why the errors occurred, why the numbers didn't change in 2024 to give the reference number of 2024. Instead, they're still reflecting a reference number of 2020. So basically, you're not very helpful to the court. Then there was a conversation after the cross-examination of Mnisi where they speak about Mjiako being called to court, and basically Ramasipile does say that if the client's attorney privilege is renounced by the client, then Mjiako could be called to the stand. And basically that was the cross-examination, and those were the proceedings for Monday. On Tuesday, the 27th of May, we came to court and Nxumalo was not available. It was indicated that they didn't have another witness, and also the AVLs were not available as early as Monday afternoon. So Nxumalo took on another case in KZN and he wasn't available in court. However, Mnisi was standing in for both Nxumalo and Umshololo. And the judge basically asked when the AVLs will be ready. And Baloyi does say that by Monday, the AVLs should be ready and everything should be gathered. Now, some of the information the judge just wanted confirmation on is the vehicles that were requested AVLs for, and he does say it's the Fortuner, the BMW, the Red Golf, and also some extracts from the evidence of Dupree, as well as the fleet manager, which they have contacted with regards to a Nissan Baki as well. And this is said by Baloyi. He says it's a Nissan Baki that was driven by Mabena. But now, guys, the interesting thing about this particular piece of information is that later on, Kininda then mentions that actually the Baki that Mabena was driving was a Toyota Hilux. Now, guys, why this is important is that the versions of the accused just keep coming together. If you remember the evidence of Untanzi, he said that he was taken by a Toyota Fortuner. Now, the dispute that Keninda had was that there's no way that it could have been the Fortuner because the Fortuner was in the workshop. So it wasn't a Fortuner, it could have been a Baki. Now, Keninda comes and says, actually, Mabena was driving a Toyota Hilux. So Ntanzi was not wrong when he said it was a Toyota. It's just that he got the models or the types of Toyota incorrect. But in Danzi's version, to say that he was taken in this white Toyota were very accurate. And Keninda wanted to say it was a Nissan Baki. And he even said that Ndanzi is not an expert in cars. But Ndanzi was adamant that it was a Toyota. Yes, he said it was a Fortuner, but his version is coming to light because here is a Toyota Hilux in the mix now, Mabena's car. Then they quickly confirmed with Jonathan, who was in court, with regards to their AVLs and if all the vehicles of the EMPD were actually fitted with AVLs. He does confirm that all the vehicles were fitted, and it is confirmed that all the people, Jonathan, Monareng, and all the rest of them are still alive, and so they might actually need to come back to court to testify with regards to their AVLs at this time. Now, Ramasipili does point out that during the cross-examination of Buthelezi, accused number 2 says that he was transported by the EMPD, and Buthelezi did dispute this. So the judge was asking, how was this information going to assist the case? So it's an issue of credibility. He then answers himself and he says, it's an issue of credibility. The judge asks the question and answers himself by saying it will be a matter of credibility. And to be quite honest, Ntanzi is proving to be more credible than all these EMPD officers and all these cops that were involved, because he mentioned an engine garage, and all the officers that were involved denied this engine garage, and this was before the AVL came to the picture. Once the AVL came to the picture, only then Mohane remembered that their car had a breakdown. Jonathan, they all denied being at an engine garage, but Mohane says they called Jonathan for backup. So Ntanzi's version is proving to be more accurate than all these cops combined. And now the issue of the Toyota, Keninda is now confirming that actually it was a Toyota Hilux that Mabena drove on the day that the Fortuner was at the workshop. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And if you still say accused number 2 is a liar, then clearly there's something wrong with you. Now, another thing that Keninda does explain was with regards to this particular Hilux being in an accident. Mabena's car was in an accident. They have compiled a photo album showing the pictures of the vehicle, etc., etc. The thing that he says that they are struggling with still is with regards to Zungu's AVL. They do say that those records are in Tembisa, but it's a bit of a hurdle. We don't want hurdle. We need those AVLs. And now, something very interesting came up on this day where Sibiya says, hey, by the way, I remember that there was a Qashqai. Well, Umnisi says it's a Qashqai. It's actually a Qashqai Nissan that was involved during Muzi Spear's arrest. And he does say that this car was driven by Constable Ngamani. Right? He does say that this Ngamani is a police officer. He's not sure whether the Ngamani is his name, his surname, or clan name, but there definitely was a Ngamani that was involved. And to our surprise, because Keninda is Mr. Deny It All, he says he doesn't know of a Ngamani in the police force. He doesn't know him at all. Moses Bia says, hold my beer. There's no way that you can say you don't know this gentleman, because he was one of the gentlemen that you took me home with on the 6th of May when you took me home to go confirm my address. And then suddenly Keninda remembers, it could have been the gentleman from crime intelligence. Oh, now you don't know his name. You used him to transport you and Moses Bia to his home in KZN. Now suddenly you don't know his name. What do you mean, Keninda? What do you mean? Now, because Keninda started by denying this person, the judge then says, I will request the employee registers at the police stations, all the police stations that were involved with these people. I can literally do that. That's when Keninda remembers, oh, there was a person from crime intelligence that came with us, but he doesn't know the name Ngaman. No, there's no way, because everyone, according to Moses Bia, everyone was referring to this person as Ngaman. And if you guys indeed took him to KZN, that means he was part of your team. He was part of your team that was involved in what? Dealing with the Senzo Meyiwa case. Now you don't know him. They then request the car that Keninda was driving on the day that Moses Bia was arrested, and Keninda does indicate that this car was his own personal car. Now, I would love to know the model of that car, because they keep denying that they had a BMW during this period. They're saying that the BMW was only allocated to them in July, which was a month after Ndanzi and all of them's arrest. So where did Ndanzi see the BMW? There's no way that he's making up a BMW. What was Keninda's personal car? I would love to know. Was it not a BMW perhaps? I would love to know. But they will basically bring all the documents and all those vehicles, AVLs, Ngamane's car included, which was a Nissan Qashqai. So those were basically the proceedings for the week. We ended the week on Tuesday with that information still being outstanding. We will resume with court on Monday. I hope that you all enjoy your weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.